All right, everybody, welcome to BO Boys for Wednesday, January 15th. Fuck it, it's a raw feed. We're doing it live. I'm Clayton.
Yeah, I'm Pat. So, Clayton, big preview episode for a big weekend coming up. Very exciting. So, we got some horror. This is our big first horror movie of the new year. I mean, we had The Damned, but in terms of big releases, Wolfman is the first true feeding for the Gorehounds of 2025. We didn't get like a Megan first weekend type of release, but yeah, this is big. Are you excited? As I mean, I would say we're both, you know, we're both gore hounds to some degree. I don't know if we are the no, you're shaking your head. You're not a gore hound at all.
Not really. Not really. I like scuzz more than gore. I mean, if it's in the service of scuzz, then I like it. But gore just for gore's sake in a horror sort of fashion, I'm not as big of a fan.
Okay. So you like seediness. You like a murder in the streets, but
Mhm.
not or a murder in the sheets, but you don't
Mhm.
like just a creature feature.
Not as much. I would say not. I'm not saying I don't like it at all, just not as much as I think you do.
Yeah. You're not I mean, we're not the Streamo boys, huh?
Huh?
But you're not a Shutter guy. You don't have a Shutter subscription at the moment. Okay.
No, no.
Okay. So Wolfman is the new Leigh Whannel flick. He's the guy who directed Invisible Man, which we both liked, even though you're not a gorehound, even though you are horror averse, you hate horror. You did
Here we
like
go.
Invisible Man. Here we go.
Well,
I
it's
mean,
like
it's great radio.
if anybody listened to that previous conversation we just had, they would not extrapolate from those comments what you just said.
Uh, I mean, you stated it. We could rewind it back. We could have them rewind it back in the booth. You don't have a Shutter subscription. You're a scuzz guy, not a horror guy. I
Not as
mean, it's all right
much.
there. It's all right there.
I said not as much
Not as
because I
much.
think
Oh,
you're a legitimate gorehound.
I love some gore. I could watch
Yeah.
gore. Here's the thing. I could watch gore for gore's sake.
Mhm.
And you're not a guy who rates things. We both rate things on buckets,
Yeah.
but my buckets are filled with blood and your buckets are filled with other maybe more scuzzy
Liquids.
liquids when you rate a movie.
Finally, you get to the essence of my comments.
Right, right. It's just different buckets for different BO boys.
Mhm.
Um, but you did like Invisible Man,
Yeah.
even though I would say that didn't have buckets of scuzz in it. I mean, that was horror, but you were a fan. We saw that one
It's more of a
in
thriller. I mean, I feel like that was definitely more of a thriller. There was violence,
mhm.
but to call it horror, I mean, I think it falls under the category now of horror, but I think that was sort of more thrilling.
Okay. Okay. Um, but that was the last hit of 2020 right before the pandemic. That was, you had Bad Boys for Life, you had the original Sonic the Hedgehog, both huge hits, and then you had Invisible Man open to what? Did that open to like 28 million? That opened to a pretty big number. And we're like, this is amazing. This is gonna sail to 100 million domestic. At that point in 2020, after Sonic, after Bad Boys for Life, with one of the greatest weekends of all time, that watching that opening weekend of Bad Boys for Life, and then Invisible Man comes out. Me and you were sitting there saying 2020 will be the greatest year in human history. At that point, that is where we thought things were going.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. We thought
and
nothing could stop us.
nothing could stop us.
28.2 it opened
Wow.
to.
Invisible Man opens 28.2. And at that point, the BO boys are sitting there saying, it is smooth sailing from here on out. Nothing can go wrong. I'm pretty sure if you go back into the archives, that episode when we talked about Invisible Man's opening weekend, we were saying nothing can go wrong from this point.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm not a historian. I forget what happened after that, but I do remember Invisible Man. There were other circumstances that kept it from getting to $100 million domestic.
Yeah.
Do you think that those circumstances of whatever it was that happened around that time, spring 2020, I forget. Do you think the fact that those circumstances kept Invisible Man from getting to 100 million and becoming a giant sort of cultural phenomenon, is that affecting the buzz for this Wolfman opening?
No, I mean, I think it is I think it's a different situation than that because, we had Jeff D'Lo on the show,
Yes.
last episode, and
Mhm.
we talked a little bit about Wolfman. Now, I just wanna really quickly, because we did get a comment on the YouTube that said, "Clayton does not enjoy the Jeff D'Lo experience."
I saw that comment. Wow. Yeah.
And that feels to me like that's not a wanna be a boy, wanna be a girl, wanna be a person.
Person.
Because as you can see, I mean, this is how I look all the time.
Mhm.
I I I'm a sourpuss, right?
Yes, 100%. No
I look like
enthusiasm.
I look like a real pill.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
And that was not me not enjoying the Jeff D'Lo experience. I thoroughly enjoyed the Jeff D'Lo experience. We're hoping to have him on the show and also hoping to go see a movie with him when
Oh,
he's
we
in town.
can't wait. Cannot wait till Jeff D'Lo's in town and we see a movie, of course, with Jeff, with Chris Klemmer, the four of us ride again to a movie theater. It's oh my god, it's gonna be fantastic.
The
Yeah.
Four Horsemen.
Yep.
And so I just want to make that perfectly clear that I don't know who this person was. I don't know if they're trying to sow discontent, if they're trying to start some sort of war between
Mhm.
us, but if you watch our videos
Mhm.
and, if you're not watching the videos, you're not getting the full experience. The story is
Clearly.
gonna be full for you. This is what I look like. I look like I'm having the worst time possible
Yes. Yes. You
all the
give
time.
nothing.
I
Nothing.
give
Yeah.
nothing,
Yeah.
on camera.
Yeah, and that fucking hat, I could understand why this YouTube viewer thought that you were not enjoying the Jeff D'Lo experience just from looking at that fucking hat that you have on, because that hat really does seem like the hat of a man who hates everything around him. And so I could understand the confusion of that YouTube viewer,
Mhm.
just from that fucking hat.
Okay.
So, and I'm defending you here when I say that, when I agree that you're a sourpuss, when I say that you give absolutely nothing. I,
Sure.
this is me defending you from this attack from this YouTuber who
And
may
you
be
can s
maybe a fan, maybe a great person, maybe he's just tweaking and tweaking us, not tweaking on drugs. Though also
can't
possibly both.
can't both be true.
Both could be
A
true.
and just for evidence, if you're watching the video, you see when Pat talked about this fucking hat, the look on my face didn't change.
Nope.
I have the same
Nothing.
look on my face as if you would have told me I won $1,000,000,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay?
Gives nothing. Nothing.
And so I just wanna make that clear. So anyway, to get to my point about
Yes.
Wolfman is that I don't think the fact that Invisible Man did what it did and existed and was cut short by some unknown thing, uh, has anything to do with this movie whatsoever. I just think Wolfman is a hard sell at any time.
Mm.
I just
Mhm.
and we again, this is a creative person that we enjoy and will give the benefit of the doubt to, Leigh Whannel.
Yeah.
And yet I cannot muster any excitement for this film.
Wow.
whatsoever.
Wow. Um, yeah, okay, so Invisible Man opens to 28 million. Right now, the tracking on this predictions are around that 15 to 20 mark. So Den of Thieves or a bit higher is where the tracking is, or Den of Thieves 2 Pantera. Um, which is surprising for, again, a horror movie, first horror movie we've had in a while, and the follow-up to Invisible Man. Um, so it's significantly less than that. What are the reasons we think there is less buzz? I mean, I'll throw this out here right now, and I've mentioned this before, but lack of a star. Invisible Man, you got Elisabeth Moss. And whatever you want to say, again, you're not a horror guy. Your buckets are not filled with blood, and your buckets are not filled with Elisabeth Moss. That's what you're saying.
No, finish your uh, don't don't react to my reaction. Finish this ridiculous sentence.
Well, no, the sentence is Elisabeth Moss is a. I don't know why it's ridiculous to say that Elisabeth Moss is a bigger deal than Charlie from Girls, and the actress who almost played Madonna until the movie was scrapped. So I would say Elisabeth Moss brings in more awareness to a movie than Christopher Abbott. God love him, love Charlie from Girls, typically a top 3 girl every episode, and brings in more people than, I'm going to say, just like we said before the show, it's not Jennifer Garner, it's Julia Garner. Julia Garner. You knew I was going to accidentally say Jennifer, so I just went ahead and did it. But Elisabeth Moss is a bigger deal than Christopher Abbott and Julia Garner. That's my first reason why I think there is a gap between what Invisible Man did at 28 million and what Wolfman is projected to do in this 15 to 20 million range.
Well, just to be clear, Julia Garner got replaced by a animated porpoise.
In the
That is
Madonna movie.
in the Madonna movie.
Okay.
So now that has also been scraped. So I don't know if they're going to come back to her at a future time, obviously, because Better Man underperformed. So they
Mm,
might be going a different way. Again,
maybe.
listen to last episode. We don't approve of that. I think that's Hollywood being scared. I
Yes.
think if you did a Madonna biopic with a porpoise, with like a animated porpoise, not animated, but you know,
Digitized.
digitized porpoise,
Yeah.
I think that would do gangbusters. But of course, Hollywood scared of anything
Hmm.
and everything. So to say that Elisabeth Moss, I mean, yes, she was on a successful. She had got finished with a successful run on a TV show. The Handmaid's Tale had started at that point, right? It
Oh, Handmaid's Tale was several seasons in when Invisible Man came out. I
okay.
mean, when Invisible Man comes out, she has removed, run away, removed the costume, run away, got caught, had to put the costume back on
I don't
many,
want to
many
talk.
times in
I
that
don't
show.
want to talk about that show. I don't want to hear about television right now.
I,
Okay, I don't
I'm
want to
just
hear
telling.
anything about that show.
She was a hot TV star coming off of Handmaid's Tale when that movie came out.
But
A-
again,
awareness, awareness,
passive awareness, but passive
awareness.
entertainment. Nobody's plunking down their hard-earned money to watch Handmaid's Tale, right? So we have to take that into to there's plenty of television stars who did not bring butts to the seats, like Ted Danson,
Ted
for
Danson,
example,
of
right?
course.
That
Yeah.
was the first thing that came to both of our minds.
I knew you were going to Ted Danson.
So
Uh,
yes, was the awareness of Elisabeth Moss higher than the awareness of a Julia Garner? Yes, but does
yes,
that mean anybody wants to plunk down money? No.
but awareness helps. We're not talking. This is not the lawyer test. I'm not saying put Elizabeth Moss in a courtroom drama and it gets you 75 million. I'm not saying that, but she is definitely more of a sign, I would say, of quality and largeness of a production in this kind of genre than a Jennifer Garner or Christopher Abbott are giving you.
There you go. You did it. You did it. Do you know
Julia
what you just
Garner.
thank
Julia
you.
Garner. Julia Garner. If Elisabeth Moss is in the Julia Garner part in this movie, or I mean, honestly, if she's in the Christopher Abbott part and she's the Wolfman and it's Wolf Woman, but if she's in the Julia Garner part, playing Christopher Abbott's wife, because I know this has got to be a sticking point for a lot of people who see this Wolfman trailer. The moment halfway in the trailer when Julia Garner says "my husband," and you realize that she's husband and wife, not father and daughter, that's a shocking moment. But if Elisabeth Moss was playing the female lead, was playing the wife in Wolfman, I guarantee you we'd be talking about projections that are over $20 million. I guarantee you.
Okay. The age gap, if you want to get into that conversation between Christopher Abbott and Julia Garner, is 8 years. They're both in their 30s. Okay.
Great.
So I don't think that's an odd couple in
I'm
my
not saying
estimation. I don't think most people are thinking that.
so you're definitely not thinking that.
No,
No. And you know
I've
what?
said that previously. They have a daughter in the movie.
But Julia Garner and the daughter, to me, look almost the same age. It is not the actual age gap. It doesn't matter what Wikipedia is saying. In this movie, in this trailer, you might as well tell me that Christopher Abbott is her grandfather. Like, that is what the perceived age gap is to me.
So
I'm not.
their daughter to you looks like Christopher Abbott's granddaughter.
I'm saying yes, or or not Christopher Abbott's granddaughter, but his wife's sister. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I am saying that Jennifer Garner,
There you go. Jesus Christ.
Julia Garner, is not seeming like the wife of Christopher Abbott in
Okay.
this trailer. And
This is
whatever negative that is at the box office, I'm not saying it's a $13 million gap between Wolfman and Invisible Man. That's not why it's that large of a potential gap right now. But I'd say it's a $500,000 you're losing because of how much they look like father and daughter rather than husband and wife.
okay. So this is an opinion of one. This is an opinion of one. This is
Write
not an
us.
opinion of anybody else.
Write us, theboboyspodcast at gmail.com. Let me know if that seems like a problem to people in your audiences where you've seen the Wolfman trailer.
So since you can't keep Ben Affleck's ex-wife's name out of your mouth, Jennifer Garner, let's just go there. How much more do you think this would make if Jennifer Garner played the wife?
Here's the thing. I don't think that much more. I think Elisabeth Moss is in this genre, in this moment, is going to be a catchier
This moment?
in this moment. I mean, I know Jennifer Garner, and I meant to say Jennifer Garner there, not Julia Garner. Jennifer Garner is coming off of playing Elektra in the Deadpool and Wolverine movie. But if she's not playing Elektra, no one gives an S. No one gives an F about Jennifer Garner. Or unless she's in a religious movie. If Jennifer Garner is playing the mom in a movie where a kid bunks their head and then Jesus comes down in the lead. But Elisabeth Moss, I do think in this type of movie where you're trying to get young couples, younger people to go see a horror movie, I do think she's a bigger draw
For
than a
young
Jennifer Garner.
people?
Yes. Yes, for
No,
young
you're
people.
insane.
Yes.
For oh my, Elizabeth Moss is not more of a draw for young people.
They've got their Her Smell DVDs. Yes.
Okay, so we have to get off this because you are insane.
Wow.
You're insane. I don't think
He's
that
giving me something finally. He's
I
giving me
don't
something.
I don't think Elizabeth Moss matters at all in this conversation, and we have talked too much about her. I think the sticking point here is that there's not much interest in wolf people.
Well,
That's the thing, is that the Benicio del Toro remake in, what was
mhm,
that, 2010,
long time
underperformed.
ago. Yep.
Now this is
Yep.
a lower budget than that. Obviously, they keep the budget low, so 25 million is one of those things that is good for this movie because I do think it will be profitable at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But is it going to make an impact at the box office? No. And I think this will be, there has been this talk about, is horror as strong as it was?
Mhm.
And we're seeing, I mean, we saw a movie that's still doing gangbusters right now in the theater is a horror film.
Is Nosferatu
Yeah.
is a vampire movie. So you're
And
down
it's
on
gonna make $100 million and more.
yeah.
And so I think it is the wolf person situation here that there's just not interest nowadays.
Did what happened with Wolves, the George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Apple, Crapple TV Plus
Plus,
release, did what
excretion.
did that excretion from Crapple TV Plus of Wolves, is that affecting Wolfman's buzz? Now, obviously, wolves, they were not wolf people. They do
People.
not turn into wolves. We don't think. We've never seen that excretion, and
I
we never
saw it.
will. You did see that excretion of wolf. So, is there any wolf metamorphosis in that movie?
No.
Okay, it is. They are humans. They are not lichens in any way.
Mhm.
Okay, so that movie though was a disaster. It didn't get its release. It got excreted onto the streamer. There was a sequel that was announced that then was denounced. The director of the film admitted they're never making this. Um, i- that whole product was a farce. Do you think the public just right now is against the word wolf?
I mean, it's possible. It's very possible. We had a theory that Dracula was weak and would never come back, and that was proven wrong.
Right.
Although it's Nosferatu, not Dracula, but of course it's Dracula. I mean, everything. It's like Kleenex. Everything is Dracula. Every
Yeah.
vampire is Dracula.
Yeah.
This, I just don't think there's any interest whatsoever, and it'd
Mm,
be very hard for this to be reinvigorated. And all of the all of the ads have made
mhm.
this seem like it's gonna be just a basic, I've seen this before, sort of my dad turns into a wolf, and now we gotta fight him. And I think that,
But that's her husband. It's not her dad.
well, the young girl there's a young girl involved,
Right, but
right?
that's not the co-star of the movie.
Well,
So
she
from the
is
point of
technically a
view
co-star.
but from the point of view of the co-star whose name some people might know, it's the husband,
Okay,
not the
so
dad.
my husband turns into a werewolf.
Right, which could have been the title of a movie. That's maybe a better title.
Yeah, so although they wanna use the Wolfman IP,
Right.
because it is a universal monster flick. I yeah, I mean, I don't know how many more ways I can say it. I just don't think there's interest, and I think that there's been a whole bugaboo about the way this Wolfman looks.
Well,
It's
yeah.
underwhelming. People have been, of course, the internet grabs a hold of everything and can't wait to just find fault in it. But, a lot of the people finding fault in it are people who would maybe pay to see this movie and are not.
Well, let's stay on that because um were you referencing those what happened at the Universal Studios Halloween parade or Halloween experience in the
Mhm.
fall. So basically they debuted the character of the Wolfman from this movie in a live experience at the Universal Parks, Fright Night, whatever they call their October shows at Universal, and had the logo for this Wolfman movie behind it. So it was like, okay, this is what Wolfman in that movie is going to look like. And then you have just this guy in a low rent Halloween store costume looking like Gwildor from the Masters of the Universe movie with hair on his head. I mean, it was a farce, that live
Mhm.
action Wolfman. And people have kind of grasped onto that and used that to say that this movie is going to be low rent. Do you think that is really stuck? Like, do you think right now people are deciding whether or not to buy their ticket and are put off by what they remember or saw from that live action Universal Studios park Wolfman looking like Wildor
Yeah,
with hair stuck on his head?
yeah, I think horror fans are very they don't forget, you know?
Mhm.
And I think that is something that they will take into account when they spend their hard-earned money, you
Right.
know? And I think that's not it was not a good look.
Yeah.
And
It's
I
not a
think
good look.
that is one of the reasons why I think this is not as anticipated as if that monster looked awesome.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's rough. That's rough on the the park executive who greenlit that. Um, and you get why you had to, because you gotta have something at this Halloween park experience. You gotta put something new out there, and probably just trotting out Dracula, year after year isn't enough. But it's a problem for him, and I think if this opening weekend underperforms, I could see that park executive. I don't know if you I don't can the guy, but maybe cane the guy. Let him
Mhm.
keep his job, but maybe he gets a couple of whacks in the middle of the park, and that's something you could do next October for the park goers. And then this
Well, a
actor, do
park
you
I think I mean, a park amusement park rules and laws are different. I mean, I think
Yes.
this is you put this in the carnies' hands, and they'll give them a good carny caning, if you will.
Mhm. And it's like an extra premium tier for the people buying tickets to the park. Is this tier you get to go on all the rides. This next tier you get turkey leg for free. Highest tier, oh, we get to see what the carnies do to the park executive who greenlit the live action Wolfman that hurt the movie's box office.
Yeah,
That's
you get to see
top tier.
some carny justice.
Yes, yes. So you could make back some bucks that way, and I think they should if this weekend underperforms. The actor who played that live action Wolfman at the park, obviously he has no say in what the costume looks like. He's just letting them put whatever shit on his face that they say we're going to put on your face, and he just sits there, and that's his job, and they just put shit on his face.
Mhm.
That said, do you think Hollywood will take that into account if this theater park actor is ever auditioning for a movie in Hollywood? Do they remember this is the guy whose Wolfman looked like shit in real life, and that affected the box office when the movie came out? He's up for a role in a Tarantino movie. Does the studio say, QT, we ain't casting this guy?
Yeah, look at the poor unfortunate actress who played Snow White in that ill-fated Rob Lowe, was it
An
the
Academy Award
yeah,
sketch?
the Oscars, yeah, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, excommunicated.
Right. We've never seen her.
Yeah.
Never seen her again. Yeah, it could be a similar fate. If that actress or personality who played Snow White on that failed Oscars sketch with Rob Lowe, if she is still alive, and at this point she'd probably be in her 80s or so, she'd be very old.
Mm-hmm.
If she is still alive, I hope she's available to give advice to the live theme park actor who played the Wolfman, who's about to be excommunicated from Hollywood. I hope she could sit him down and give him some life advice and just sort of let him know this is what's about to happen to you
Yeah.
because of what happened in that live uh, park experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now,
Uh,
now, where do you? I mean, what do you think? Is the reasoning for this low tracking?
I mean, you know what I think? It's Elisabeth Moss. So we know what I think. The tracking is low. That first one had so much buzz because, I mean, and you've said this on other episodes, there was a stickiness to the premise of Invisible Man being a abusive boyfriend. It was just an easy to explain idea. And this one doesn't have that going on. It is just there is a wolf man. That
Mhm.
really seems to be all they're selling is there is a wolf man, and it may be just 3 people in the movie. I think overall it feels small, and if they kept the budget low, this movie's going to make a profit because it's horror and it is going to end up making money. This movie is not going to tank,
Yeah.
but it does feel small. I think compared to Invisible Man, which felt like a big idea and did just feel like a bigger scope. And again, I think Elisabeth Moss adds to that, makes it feel like a bigger movie. This
Now I
just
am
feels
now I am not enjoying the Pat Stango experience.
wow. YouTubers comment on that. I don't think Clayton is enjoying the Pat Stango experience.
I'm not.
Um, so he's giving me something here, though. This I'm excited about this, but I do think that it just feels smaller. I mean, do you agree with that? Even if it's not because of the lack of Elisabeth Moss, it doesn't feel as big of a presentation as Invisible Man felt in those weeks leading up to it.
Yeah. Don't say that name again. What I will say about this is that it is smaller. It does feel much smaller. And I think, the fact that this was a gaslighting X, it was very prescient. It was very of the time.
Right.
And this, I mean, there doesn't seem to be a twist unless the twist is the same as Invisible Man, where Christopher Abbott's character gets bitten by a werewolf, becomes a werewolf, and then tries to gaslight Julia Garner's character into believing he's not a werewolf. Then we could get on board with that, right?
Right.
Because that's a similar high concept of, you know, a woman being called crazy when, she's saying, my husband is a werewolf. And he's saying, I'm not a werewolf. Believe
And,
me, I'm not a werewolf. I just ate our child, but I am not a werewolf.
well,
Like
and
that's
then
a movie that's a movie that people would gravitate towards without a named star, an unnamed star that will not be named again.
Elizabeth Moss, of
Uh,
course, is the name star that you will not name, but I
I
will
might
name
turn
her.
I
I will
might
say
turn
her name.
into I might turn into a werewolf
And
because
I
of
would and I would deny it. And I would gaslight you, and you would be fully turning into a werewolf, and I would say, "No, you're not." And that maybe that's the gaslighting angle that they could have taken in this,
she
is
says you're
not
not a
that
werewolf.
she says you're not a werewolf as he is eating people in front of her, screaming, "I am a werewolf," and she's like, "You're not a werewolf. You're just some
Yeah.
guy." Th
Mhm.
and
Just a
it's
guy with a bad
about
attitude. You're just a guy with a bad attitude.
you're just a guy with a bad attitude.
You need therapy.
And she's just like, "You're boring."
You're
And he's
boring.
like, "I'm a werewolf." And she's like, "No, you're not. You're just boring."
You're
And
boring.
it's about
You have mommy
her.
issues.
You have mommy issues, but you're not a werewolf. And it's about her torturing and gaslighting him by
Yeah.
denying to him the obvious, which is that he is a werewolf. That's a horror movie. Oh, and listen, we're not here to rewrite this guy, Leigh Whannel, great
Yeah.
writer director, upgrade one of the best sci-fi movies of the past 50 years. We'll say it. But I think in terms of a hooky premise that would get people excited for the opening weekend, something like that would have created more buzz. A movie in which you're gaslighting a werewolf and
Mhm.
saying, no, you're not a werewolf, even as he's turning into a werewolf.
You're just bipolar and boring, but you're
And
also
boring.
boring.
You're
Yeah.
just boring. Yeah. Yeah. That I think that would have spoke to audiences in a bigger way than he's turning into a werewolf and they're at a cabin. Like that does seem to be the premise. He's a werewolf and it's three people at a cabin, which
Mhm.
this movie could be great. I mean, I don't know. We again, he's made Saw movies, he's made two writer director movies that we like a lot. It just doesn't seem like the trailer is giving you a big hook that's going to get people excited beyond the point of this is a horror movie.
Mhm.
So yeah, we will see. I'll also throw out we're we're now 30 years, 31 years past when Wolf, starring Jack Nicholson, hit theaters. That was June of 1994. That movie opened to $17.9 million in its opening weekend in 1990 $4. So really the star power of Jack Nicholson that back then he just took uh, that is really a guy is going to be a wolf movie. That's all that had. But because it was Jack, it opened to about $18 million in 1994.
But even that wasn't he a businessman? He was a businessman that was a wolf, and that
Right.
even is something more
That's
than
true.
this.
Right. He was like a wolf of finance. I think that's the term they
Wolf of
use. Wolf of
Finance, yeah.
finance. Yeah.
So this movie will open to less, spoiler alert for what I'm
Mm,
gonna say at the end of this, but this will not match the heights of Wolf in
okay.
1994. That is
That
my take.
okay, that's a great over under. So I'll also use that when I give my prediction is Wolfman over under what Wolf opened to in 1994, which was 17.9 million. Okay, so that's the tease for our predictions at the end of the episode. So there's another movie opening wide, a brand new movie. I mean, September 5 is going wide this weekend. That's a reporter movie, you know, terrorist attack at the Olympics movie. Feels like it's been out for like 4 months already because it got a release in the fall or December for awards purposes. It's going wide-ish now. Do you think this going wide even means 1,000 theaters? I kind of don't know if this, the numbers is saying this goes wide. This is a Paramount Pictures release. I don't know if Chris Klemmer is going to have to, he may have seen this already because it came out in December, but I don't know if this hits 1,000 theaters, this wide release of September 5.
Yes, I doubt it does.
Yeah. Yeah. This feels like a movie that got zero awards buzz up to this point. If it had been a best picture contender, maybe it makes some bucks now, but I think it's kind of just a big nothing because the awards bodies have not cared at all. So audiences will not. So the other wide release that is a new movie is from Sony Pictures, and it is a comedy called One of Them Days, and it co-stars Keke Palmer and SZA.
Mhm.
Have you watched the trailer for One of Them Days, Clayton?
Yes.
Okay. I, can I say that? Uh, you know, I kind of like the trailer, and I- I'm not probably not going to end up seeing this in the theater at least this weekend. I mean, priority wise, if I go see something this weekend, it's got to be Wolfman. Still have to see Den of Thieves 2 Pantera, but I do like that this One of Them Days is sort of like a throwback 90s wacky comedy of just people who are trying to get by having a crazy day. Like here's their adventure. Here's, you know, just look at all the shit that's going to fall on their heads or that they're going to slip on or wacky people they're going to meet in the neighborhood type of movies. I like this trailer. I mean, I don't know if this movie will be good, but I'm kind of in to the existence of one of them days.
Yeah, here's a movie that 3 years ago would have been shunted off to a streamer.
Yes.
This would have come out on Netflix, and people talk about it for maybe a day or 2, and then it disappears, and it
Yep.
gets buried with all the other garbage and the sludge.
Yep.
And this is a movie that's going to theaters. People are going to go see it in probably small numbers, but it's a comedy that's being
Yes.
released. It's a, like you said, good old-fashioned buddy comedy.
Yep.
We've seen, in the past, musicians having success in these sort of movies, these sort of, two-hander comedy, funny movies.
I mean,
SZA,
Friday is the gold standard for this type of movie.
yeah.
You know, you got Ice Cube, Chris Tucker, and they're having one of them days. I mean,
Mhm.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was an early draft of Friday. I'd have to go back and watch the Straight Outta Compton movie and see if they covered that in Straight Outta Compton when they show Ice Cube writing Friday. Was there an original draft that the movie was called One of Them Days? It's very possible.
Yeah, sort of how Scream's original title was Scary Movie.
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, we got to look now. I got to look into the making of One of Them Days. Did they title that because they know that was an original title for Friday? But that's the gold standard of what this movie could be. And that movie is, you know, is a classic of the genre. Saying any movie is going to become the next Friday is just fool's errand. But
Mhm.
clearly, that is the best case scenario for a movie like this.
Yeah, and the fact that it gets a chance to do something in the theaters, and then again, I mean, they're getting, it's a legitimate movie. It's not a Netflix movie, so
Yep.
it's not gonna end up being something that's skipped over. When this goes to PVOD, people will pay that premium price for it. People
Yes.
will look for it on whatever streamer it ends up being on. I mean, that's the benefit here. And again, we're the BO boys, not the Streamo boys.
Huh.
Huh? But you do have to take into account whatever downstream money you can make is going to be amplified by a theatrical release.
Yes, yes. And people are gonna see in the theater this weekend. They're gonna laugh together. That's gonna if this movie is good and people go see in the theater and laugh together, it's the type of movie that could get word of mouth because people will definitely are more likely to tell other people that they saw a good comedy in the theater than just like, hey, you got to go see Conclave or just a drama. I think comedy just gets a more visceral reaction out of people. Again, if this is good, I did like things in the trailer. I like that she gets electrocuted on a light pole. That's always a good gag. You get someone to climb to the top of a pole, they grab something, they get electrocuted. It works. It always works.
Mhm.
The other thing I like about what I saw in this trailer is you got Cat Williams. Cat Williams outside of a window yelling things at the protagonist, telling them that they're doing something they shouldn't be doing. And Cat Williams is he's in a good spot right now because Cat Williams has said a lot of things in the last year that are, I guess, proven to have come true.
Mhm.
So I think this feels like a little bit of a victory lap moment for Cat Williams.
Yeah.
It's like he warned people about a certain guy, and then boom, Cat Williams. I guess you were right, Cat Williams. And now you got Cat Williams in a movie. So maybe do you think that translates at all? Do you think Cat Williams clips being passed around because he called some stuff? Do you think that translates to people wanting to now go see Cat Williams play a small supporting part in One of Them Days.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt. It definitely doesn't hurt that he has raised his profile at this
Mhm.
point.
Mhm.
So, the other movie that I sort of wanna point to, and of course, I think this had more well-known stars in it, a more bulk of well-known people, is Girls Trip from 2017.
Okay.
Also sort of hey, a bunch of friends getting into some mischief,
Yep.
and this is more of a two-hander, so I do think Friday is a better comp. But, I mean, there is an opening for a female slanted sort of, we can do these wacky comedy things just as good as the guys, like Bridesmaids. Those are
Yes.
obviously way bigger releases with more push behind them.
Yes.
But,
Yeah, yeah.
because Friday was a small release, it ended up never being in more than, 900 theaters really, never reached 1,000 theaters, so Clemmer would never have to have seen it in the theater if he didn't want to.
Mhm.
But, the upside on this could be really high.
Yeah. Yeah, it could definitely the theatrical release will help it on PVOD, and this is the type of movie that in 1995 would, in theory, have just cleaned up at Blockbuster. And we're not the Blockbuster boys, huh? We're not going
Huh,
back in time to relitigate video stores, huh? We're not a Netflix documentary about what happened to Blockbuster, huh?
huh.
But One of Them Days after a theatrical release is killing it, Blockbuster, killing it, Hollywood Video. It is hugely rented, hugely stolen off the shelves like Clerks. I mean, it's that type of movie, I think.
Yeah,
So
agreed.
hopefully it translates on PVOD. I mean, listen, we'll see what it does this weekend. It definitely, I've seen the trailer a few times in theaters.
Mhm.
Not a lot, I've seen Wolfman many times in theaters, but I have seen One of Them Days, I would say twice in the last couple of months in front of movies. So it's Sony, it's out there. Um, well, the other place, and we're not the Streamo boys, but when this gets to
Huh.
Netflix, I think this is going to be huge because Sony, the deal where downstream their movies go to Netflix, and that'll probably be a place where this becomes a modern, not cult classic, but definitely gets found more.
Mhm, mhm.
So we'll see.
It'll definitely be in the top 10 streamed movies when it drops.
Yes, yes. Um, do we know what the theater count on this? I didn't see it in the Box Office Pro article. I mean, within the numbers, we're just seeing wide release. I'm not seeing a theater count for this yet. I mean, will Clemmer have to see this? He has said that he will see every movie that opens in 1,000 theaters until he does renege on that sometime in the spring. But for right now, if this opens in 1,000 theaters, he will have to see One of Them Days.
I think he will have to see it.
Yeah, I think so too, right? Yeah, this should open in over 1,000.
I
This
think
could
it'll
be
be
like
in,
a
like, 12.
1,400. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's, like, 12 to 14. I would assume that's what we're gonna see here.
Yeah. All right. Well, you know what? Then let's see if we think it's going to make the top 5. Are you ready to make some top 5 predictions for the weekend of January 17th?
Mhm.
Would you like to go first or second?
I'll go first.
Great.
So, I do think Wolfman is going to be number 1,
Okay.
only because I don't think it's gonna tank. I think it'll be on the low end of expectations. I think it's gonna make 16
Okay.
and be number 1. I think under that, I'm gonna put Mufasa.
Wow. Okay.
Mufasa, then I think Den of Thieves, 2, Pantera is 3rd. I think it's gonna drop around 50 to 60%.
Yep.
Then I'm gonna say number 4 is gonna be Sonic,
Okay.
and then Nosferatu.
Wow. Okay.
I think the other thing that we haven't mentioned here, talking about Wolfman, is that Nosferatu is still going pretty strong.
Yeah.
So there's a possibility that people are going to do like I'm going to do, which I'm seeing Nosferatu tomorrow. They're gonna see that instead of seeing Wolfman, because
Okay.
there's an auteur that people are really buzzing about with Nosferatu, as opposed to Leigh Whannel, who we love, does not have the sort of buzz at the moment.
Yes. Which is a shame. I mean, also
Very
because
talented.
Leigh Whannell's movies coming into this uh uh have made so much more money than Robert Eggers' movies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Upgrade only made like 10 million, but Invisible Man is the biggest hit before Nosferatu came out. Was the biggest hit that either Eggers or Leigh Whannell had made.
Yeah.
But you're right, Leigh Whannell doesn't have that name recognition the way Robert Eggers has.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm gonna go also number one, Wolfman will finish first. I think I'm going the over on the Jack Nicholson Wolf over under. I think this gets to 18.1. I think after all the hemming and hawing, horror always wins, and people need some new gore. And I think this will get itself to 18.1 million and finish number one.
Well, just to be clear, I do have to go back on. I said that I thought that this was going to make less than Wolf, but Wolf did open to 14, and I did say a higher number. So I am also over.
I thought it open. I'm looking at the numbers, and I have 17.9
Oh, it's at
million this
17.
opening
Okay,
weekend.
okay. Sorry. So I did go under. My
Yeah,
apologies.
you went under. I'm going over. I'm going
Okay.
18.1 million, so I go over that. Number two, I yeah, it is tough because Mufasa probably falls down to 9 million. So that's number two. Den of Thieves 2 probably goes down to 7 or 8 million. So that's number three. Sonic then is right under that. And yeah, Sonic is 4, and then Nosferatu is 5. I mean, I think the same. So what do we both think then is the number or the placement for One of Them Days? I mean, One of Them Days we both think gets in the top 10, right?
Yes, because I think it'll make maybe 2.
Yeah, does it finish ahead of, I guess then it pushes Baby Girl, Game Changer, Last Showgirls, like those movies is what it will finish ahead of, but it will finish behind, we think, A Complete Unknown, Wicked. Like those will still finish ahead of One of Them Days.
I think so, and Moana as well. Moana 2.
Moana 2, yeah. Yeah, is there any way? I mean, is there any scenario you see where One of Them Days does make 6 or 7 million this weekend? I mean, could we be
Hmm.
underestimating? Is it possible somehow that me and you don't fully comprehend the star power of Keke Palmer and SZA?
It's very possible. It's
It's
very
very,
possible.
yeah.
And I hope it overperforms. I mean, if it gets in the top 5, that would be amazing. I hope that
Yes.
happens. I just don't think the theater count and the awareness is gonna be there.
Yes. I that's what I think too, but would love to Sunday night on the show talk about how One of Them Days finished in the top 5, made 6 or 7 million dollars at the box office. Would love it. Would love
Mhm.
nothing more. At this point, our football teams are out of the playoffs. We are Penn State. They've been knocked out. Big Blue, my Giants, they're not looking good as far as the playoff run right now. Your Steelers are out. So we don't have much to root for on this football weekend, but we could put on our One of Them Days caps and root for that movie to get in the top 5.
I mean, I think the other thing, and we haven't talked about this yet, but, Wolfman was drafted by Senior
Yes,
VP of Interns Christopher, correct?
you're correct. Yeah, so we've got someone else getting into the game this weekend. You're right.
But I do think I mean, I think Kirk vocalized a little bit on the show when he was on. I
Mhm.
mean, it is possible that Wanna Bo Boys, Wanna Bo Girls, Wanna Bo People
People.
could not see this movie at the box office, and maybe even skip the opening weekend and maybe go in a later date because of the threat of him replacing one of us. I
Right.
mean, we are a very popular podcast. We have people who pay with their, they actually plunk down money to pay for the things they want to see and support the things they want to support. And there's a possibility they don't want to support a replacement. They
Right.
don't want to see this that we've been doing all episode
Right.
go away. And
Right.
so there's more at stake here with this movie than just what's on the screen.
Right.
And so that could impact, I think that will impact the box office for sure. Now, I think it still goes number 1.
Right. Right. But in the cities where we're popular everywhere, but in the cities where
We over
we have
index.
we over-index, your New Yorks, your LAs, your Boston, of course, Paris, that won't affect the demand. Well, that's the thing. My popularity in Europe doesn't affect our box office fantasy league because we only count domestic dollars.
Yeah.
So, the fact that I am just so hugely beloved in Paris, where they celebrate true artists, that doesn't affect this fantasy league we're doing.
And
Uh,
I would never tell a wanna be a boy, wanna be a girl, wanna be a person
person.
to skip out on this movie opening
No.
weekend and go see something else. Like, definitely go and see something, see a movie, see, I don't know, Den of Thieves 2 Pantera possibly if you missed out on that one.
Okay, on your team, of course.
See
Right.
that movie instead of Wolfman, because 'cause you'd still be supporting theatrical. The Wolfman would still be profitable at the end of the day because you can see it the second weekend or you can see it third weekend. I'm not telling you to wait to the home release, but I mean that is something that I think is an option for people.
Yeah, and people could also right now check Fandango, and you might be able to pre-order tickets for Love Hurts, starring Oscar winners Kiwi Kwan and Ariana DeBose, coming out in February. So you could pre-order those tickets on Fandango now, currently on my team until I release it. So um
Is that really the
lots
one you wanna? Is that really the one you wanted to promote because you're just gonna release it anyway?
uh, you know what? But I'm just saying movies. I'm just saying movies. We
Okay.
want people to support movies, and that movie, I think you could buy tickets now on Fandango, and you buy them and you forget it. You just set it and forget it. So huge weekend for obviously for Christopher, who has this on his fantasy team. Huge weekend for the poor hapless actor who portrayed the Wolfman at that failed Universal Studios Halloween Nights show. A lot on the line for him. If this movie bombs, he's out of Hollywood like the Snow White actress from the Oscar sketch with Rob Lowe back in the 80s. A lot on the line for a lot of people this weekend. So can't wait to the next episode when we get the results. It's going to be
Mhm.
fascinating. So until then, email us, theboboyspodcast at gmail.com. Clayton, this mailbag is engorged. Let's get it even more sickeningly full, and then we will lance it all in one swoop on the next episode. So email us, theboboyspodcast at gmail.com. Of course, let us know if you think that the lack of Elisabeth Moss, I said her name, is a huge problem for Wolfman. So email us to boboyspodcast at gmail.com. Follow us on social media at the BO Boys Pod, on Instagram, on TikTok for a few more days. I think TikTok is about to be outlawed.
Banned. Yeah, it's gonna be banned.
It's about to be banned. We're still go to TikTok now at the BO Boys Pod and just watch every video while you still can before the government one by one takes down all the BO Boys videos from TikTok. Because I think that's how they're doing it. They're doing video by video. So watch them now. Of course, all those same videos are also on our Instagram, so just follow us there. YouTube, of course, we are YouTubers. Hey guys,
Hey guys.
and you gotta take a look at our beautiful punums and that fucking hat that Clayton has on right now. Take a look at that on the YouTube channel. It's the only place you can see that hat. And of course, 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. The Substack is back, bigger than ever. We've just articles out the wazoo. We picked up the pens again. Just put out an article 2 days ago, going over the weekend, defending the monkey from Better Man, in defense of the monkey from Better Man on our Substack. New articles every few days from us, from the BO Boys, from our ink stained feathers onto this Substack. So go subscribe there. And yeah, I mean, I think that's it. I got nothing left.
Yeah, I finished.
Great.
And Pat, you've said it all.
Yep.
There's nothing left to be said.
Nothing. So I'm out of here.
Except for until next time.
We'll smell you at the box office.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.